begin a project that's very special to us. Catholics especially will be familiar with the term last rites, or extreme unction, as it used to be called. Well, generations past, priests used to travel to visit the sick and dying, most often literally in their deathbed, with a case similar to this. Referred to as a viaticum, viaticum is actually from the Latin, from a term meaning food for the journey. And on the inside, the priest would bring these sacred vessels. The paten would be holding the Blessed Sacrament. He would bring along a crucifix. These are 100% beeswax candles. And this small bottle of holy water actually says, keep constantly filled. Well, we're assuming it hasn't been filled in decades. We don't know the exact age of this viaticum case, but the instruction booklet that came with it was printed by a company called A.J. Eggers of Cincinnati. The company was created in 1925, which supports our estimate that this case is probably somewhere near 100 years old. Inside the case is a small statue representation of the Pieta, which depicts the Blessed Virgin Mary holding the body of her son Jesus after the crucifixion. We will do some restorative and repainting work on the statue itself and on the base, and inside you can see some mold is starting to form. So we will remove that, try to keep everything as original as we possibly can. In order to access the inside of the case, I'm going to have to remove some of this paper tape, and you can see it's so brittle that even by moving it, it breaks apart. I'll be removing the hooks. This old rusted wire is going to be replaced as well, but in order to access the inside of this case, I really have no alternative but to remove the paper tape and to access it that way. So now the restoration begins. We're in the process now of dismantling the viaticum housing. The first thing we did was we removed the hand-painted glass because it's very delicate. We set it aside for safekeeping. And as we open up the actual housing, on the inside you can see this yellow colored stock. It's a background of a cathedral interior, but unfortunately it's got a lot of mold growth on it. We do have a material we're going to use to try to destroy the mold, but it appears upon closer inspection that the mold is already breaking down some of the yellow pigment on the cardstock. So what we did was we went out and found another comparable architectural cathedral interior. We had it printed specially to size, and we're going to replace, after we disinfect the inside, put in the new backing so that the Pieta will be positioned here, and it will be very much in keeping with the style and tradition of the days when the viaticum boxes were more heavily in use. The outside of the structure has now been reinforced with a new layer of acid-free material. So we'll turn our attention to improving the quality of the wood. Mostly it's going to be a cleaning and where necessary a few touch-ups of nicks and scratches, but we're not going to sand down the wood and restain it because we want to maintain as much as we can of its vintage origins. On the front, there's an old photograph on the opening door. It's a photograph of the Last Supper and it's very faded. So what I'll be doing is dismantling this from the back, taking out the card and replacing it with a new version of the Last Supper. After that, we'll be ready to start working on the glass plate. Pauline is going to paint that, touch it up from the inside, and then we will be able to put in the new backing inside the box and replacing the Pieta sculpture. Having destroyed all the biologicals inside the structure, meaning lichen and mold, it's all gone. Now I'm going to insert a sheet of acid-free backing paper. And when this is securely in place, it's going to create a barrier to protect both the glass and the Pieta structure. When it goes back in, it's going to protect those from any future growth of mold or lichen.
The challenge with a 100-year-old dry plaster sculpture is to maintain its aged look, but to make the colors look refreshed. The owner wanted the upper front of the base to be painted like old stone. And the Virgin Mary's veil and garments require traditional colors and a gold trim line, common in paintings of the saints. Then the final touches, like a simple depiction of Jesus' wounds from the crucifixion.
Pauline has now refurbished and repainted the Pieta statue to go inside. You'll see on the back there are two protruding wires, and those are actually used to go through the housing to permanently secure the Pieta in place. The Viaticum case is now fully restored, with the outside housing replaced, the wood buffed and polished, the photograph of the Last Supper replaced, and the statue of the Pieta repaired and fully repainted. What's left now is to replace the sacred items into the bottom of the storage area of the case, package it properly, and soon it'll be, hopefully, safely on its way back to Wisconsin.
The work on the Viaticum piece is completed, to look as it would have 100 years ago when the priest made his way to anoint the dying. The sacrament of the sick is still common, but not this type of Viaticum housing. Please click to subscribe, and thanks for watching.